If you're dealing with debt and considering bankruptcy, you might be wondering, can I file for bankruptcy online? That's a great question, especially since we do almost everything else online these days. In this video, I'll walk you through which parts of the bankruptcy process can be handled online and what still has to happen in person, and the fastest way to get through the process with the least amount of stress. I'll also share how I personally filed using a mountain of paperwork that I didn't even need, and how Upsolve makes it way easier. Man, I wish I had Upsolve back when I filed. Now, before we dive in, if you're thinking about filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, Upsolve has a free tool that can help you prepare your paperwork. It's the same tool that I wish I had back when I filed. More on that later in the video. For those who don't know me, my name's Ben, and I'm the co-founder of Upsolve. I started this nonprofit after going through bankruptcy myself. I had over $60,000 in credit card debt after my business failed. I was driving for Uber, Instacart, Lyft, anything I could just to keep up with my interest payments, and I was drowning. I still ended up on food stamps no matter how hard I worked. And bankruptcy gave me a fresh start so that now I can help other people find the same relief. Let's get into it. Okay, so the big question, can you actually file for bankruptcy online? Short answer, not usually. At least not if you're filing without a lawyer. Most bankruptcy courts don't let individuals submit forms electronically on their own for what's called a pro se filing. Now, pro se is a fancy Latin word that just means without a lawyer or on your own. Some courts are starting to allow electronic self-representation called ESR, but it's still really rare. You should always check with your local court to see what their filing options are. Now, this applies both to Chapter 7, which is the type of bankruptcy that Upsolve helps with, and Chapter 13 filings. If you're considering Chapter 13, which involves a complicated 3 to 5 year repayment plan, most folks do end up hiring an attorney. So what can you do online when you're filing for bankruptcy? I mentioned earlier there are some things you can do. Let's get into that now. So even though you can't usually file online, a lot of the bankruptcy process can be done online, including taking the required credit counseling and the debtor education courses. You can also download and complete forms from the U.S. court's websites. You can pull your credit reports and gather financial documents. You can also attend your 341 meeting of your creditors, which is often held virtually online, especially since COVID. Now, tracking your case on Pacer is another thing you can do online. Pacer is the court's online case system, and it's important to look at your case status there so you know what's going on. So while the final submission might need to be done in person or by mail, you can still prepare most of your forms online from the comfort of home. Okay, so we talked about what you can do online. What can't you do online? Here's what typically still has to happen in person offline. 1. Submitting your bankruptcy forms to the court unless your local court allows e-filing for self-represented filers, which, as we said earlier, not many do. 2. Paying your filing fee or applying for a fee waiver. 3. Sending additional documents to your bankruptcy trustee. 4. Attending any required affirmation hearings for secured loans like a car loan. Now, online systems are slowly catching up, but for now, be prepared to interact with the court the old-fashioned way when you file, in person with paper. Let's say you don't want to deal with in-person filings and you don't want to do any of these in-person things for the process. Can you hire a lawyer to file online for you? Yes, you definitely can. If you hire a lawyer, they can file your case online. Attorneys are required to use the court's electronic filing system in most cases, but let's be real. Lawyers are really expensive, right? Like, if you could afford to pay $1,500 to $3,000 for a bankruptcy lawyer, you probably wouldn't need to file bankruptcy. I know that was the case for me, right? I didn't have the money for a lawyer, so I printed out hundreds of pages, most of which I didn't even need, and it was confusing and overwhelming. That's why I helped co-found Upsolve, because with Upsolve, we guide you through step by step and only give you the forms that you actually need. Honestly, I wish I had this kind of help back then. It would have saved me so much time, right? Like, it took me like 6 months to get everything together. Stuff was stacked all over my house. It was honestly a fire hazard. And even after I got everything together, I still didn't really know what to do, and I didn't file correctly. Upsolve takes away all of that hassle. So what about bankruptcy petition preparers? You don't want to work with a lawyer, maybe you don't want to do it on your own. Could you work with a bankruptcy petition preparer? Let's talk about those. You've probably heard of them, online. You've probably seen or read something about them somewhere. Bankruptcy petition preparers are non-lawyers who help fill out your bankruptcy forms, but they can't file for you, and they're not allowed to give you legal advice. If you go this route, you will still need to handle the filing by yourself. So what's the fastest way to file bankruptcy? If you're facing wage garnishment or like a foreclosure, you probably want to file as quickly as possible. So here's what helps speed up the process. First of all, gather all of your documents ahead of time: credit reports, income, debts, and assets. Next, complete your forms carefully to avoid any delays. Next, take the completed packet directly to the courthouse instead of mailing it in, and then follow up with the court to confirm everything was received. Whether you're filing solo or with a lawyer, preparation is everything, which is why it can be great to use Upsolve, because we walk you through this entire process, make sure you have the right forms, and make sure you do everything step by step. So let's recap what we learned today. Can you file bankruptcy online? Usually not, at least not the actual court submission. But a lot of the work can be done online, including taking your classes, preparing your forms, and attending your 341 meeting. If you're filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy on your own, check out Upsolve's free tool. It walks you through the full process, helps you generate only the necessary forms, and includes clear instructions. Now, thousands of people have already used Upsolve with a 95% success rate. That's almost identical to the success rate of those who hire a lawyer, but without the incredibly high cost of a lawyer. Let's take a quick look at how filing bankruptcy with Upsolve actually works. Now, I'm sharing my screen here. If you just go directly to upsolve.org, you'll end up in this tool eventually, and you can click Take the Screener. Now, this is going to launch a really easy online tool that will ask you questions, TurboTax style, and ultimately fill out your forms with the answers that you give. And you can see that right here on the homepage. You could be debt-free as soon as 4 months. You're going to take the screener. You're going to fill out a questionnaire about your financial situation, which takes a few hours. You're going to file your forms at the local court, which is really quick in most instances. You're going to wait 1 to 2 months for the court to process everything and to get your 341 meeting scheduled. And then after that 341 meeting, 2 to 3 months later, you get a piece of paper in your hands that says that your debt is gone. It feels incredible. It's entirely free to get everything ready to go with Upsolve. Now, you will still have to pay a filing fee, which in some instances you may be able to get out of if you qualify based on your income, but that will be your only expense for filing bankruptcy if you work with Upsolve. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want a full walkthrough on how to file bankruptcy on your own, check out our linked video. You can file bankruptcy on your own. Here's the 10-step process. It's the perfect next step. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this one on how to take control of your financial future with Upsolve.